Knowing exactly which weapons to take with you when hunting on different maps in the Hunter Call of the Wild can be very confusing, especially with all of the non-DLC and DLC weapons in the game now. But not to worry, today we're going to go over all of the best loadouts, DLC and non-DLC for all 15 maps in the Hunter Call of the Wild. Now guys, let me know in the comments what your absolute favorite weapon is in the game, and somewhere in the video I am going to share a key phrase. Drop that in the comments for your chance to win a 1-month membership to the channel, and we are going to dive right into it. Now, lucky for us, a while back, EW did an update that allows us now to save loadouts. We can actually save 10 different loadouts, and you can name them yourself and rename them and put exactly what you would like in them. Now, before we start the video, I just want to point out that I do have the pack mule skill, which gives me an extra 3 kilograms worth of space without making any additional sound. But in today's video, I am not going to go over the 20 kilogram mark. We're just going to pretend that I don't have the pack mule skill. So what I'm going to do is show you some different loadouts, go through them completely, and then we'll go through each different map and refer back to these loadouts. And we'll start off with the main loadout. So we have the Arzina 300, and that comes in the high caliber weapon pack. And the Arzina 300 is actually my absolute favorite weapon in the entire game. It comes in the high caliber weapon pack and is good for classes 7 to 9. And it has very little recoil, especially paired with 3 points in recoil management. Then we have the Virant 22 LR, and that comes in weapon pack 1. And the Virant is good for class 1 only. The Virant is what you want to use for longer range shots on class 1 species when they get out of shotgun range, basically. And then we have the Zagan Varminter 22-250. Now the Varminter comes as the weapon that comes with the Emerald Coast DLC. Now you can substitute this for the Ranger 243. It is good for classes 2 to 4. I just prefer the Varminter. I find it's a tiny bit more powerful and I just enjoy using it more. And then I have the Zarza 308, and that comes in the Modern Rifles DLC. So this is a class 4 to 8 rifle. If you prefer a different class 4 to 8 rifle, whatever your favorite is will work just fine. They all pretty much weigh the same. And then I have the Sunberg 454. This is a non-DLC pistol. It is the strongest handgun in the entire game, and it is good from classes 4 all the way up to 9. And then as far as sights go, I have all of the sights from the new Scopes and Crosshair DLC that just came out a few weeks ago. So we have the Angler for 8x100, the Odin for 12x33 rifle scope, and that is my main daytime scope. And then I do have the Hermes 3 7x33 handgun / shotgun scope, and that is to use on the Rhino. Now I have not put any collars in this loadout, but there is room for 2. Then I have the first aid kit and the scent eliminator, and then I have the Apex View 7x42 daytime binoculars and the Gen 0 8x50 night vision rangefinder binoculars. Now the Apex View binoculars are non-DLC, and the Gen 0 come in the high-tech hunting pack, and that comes to 18.61 kilograms while within the 20 kilogram limit. Now if you prefer to hunt with non-DLC rifles, this is my non-DLC loadout, and I want to mention that whenever you make a change to any of the loadouts, to save them, press the R key. Very important, you always want to save your changes. You'll notice that this particular loadout does exceed the 20 kilogram limit, just by a little bit. I wanted to give you guys options in here. We will reduce it in just a second. The number 1 weapon you want to use with the non-DLC loadout is the 7mm. Now it's good from classes 4 all the way up to 9. Now the drawback with the 7mm is that you can only take 1 shot and then it will reload. So it is very difficult to take a follow-up shot with the 7mm, but it is the best class 4 to 8, well it's a 4 to 9 rifle, that is non-DLC. And then we do have the Rangemaster 338. This is good from classes 7 to 9. You don't need it if you have the 7mm, because the 7mm does cover class 9, so you can actually take this out and run with this loadout to get under the 20 kilogram mark, or I can put that back in there and take the Sunberg Rhino out, and that will put us under the 20 kilogram mark as well. And we also do have the Ranger 243 for classes 2 to 4, and the Cacciatore 12 gauge shotgun, and with birdshot that will cover classes 1. Then of course you can also bring using buckshot and slugs. And buckshot is good for classes 2 to 5, and slugs are good from classes 4 to 8. So the Cacciatore is good from classes 1 to 8 with the 3 different ammunitions. So those are the variations for a non-DLC loadout as far as weapons go. So then we have all of the corresponding ammo, and again, I do prefer polymer tips. And again, with the 454, I am opting for flat nose hard cast bullets with 100% penetration. And then as far as sights go, I do have the Hyperion for 8x42 rifle scope. You can actually put the Argus in there if you do like the Argus. We are still under the 20 kilogram limit because scopes only weigh half a kilogram. And then I do have the Go Shock Red Eye 2 4x20 handgun scope for the Rhino. I don't have any lures in this loadout. You could take the Argus out and put a couple collars in if you like to use collars. This is just a suggestion. Obviously, it can be tweaked for exactly your tastes. And I also do not have any consumables in here. We can live without them. And then we do have the Apex View 7x42 binoculars, and that is the non-DLC loadout. Now, if you like to hunt with a tent, so basically you have access to every piece of inventory in the entire game with just dropping a tent and going into your cache. So under a tent loadout, now my tent loadout is a DLC loadout. So what I have here is the Malmer 7mm, and the Malmer comes in the Hunter Power Pack. Then I have the Virant 22 and the Zagan Varminter. So these 3 weapons cover every class from 1 to 9. Then I have the corresponding ammo, the Angler Night Vision Scope, and the Odin Scope. I don't have any collars, but the way it is right now, you have room for 3 collars, almost 4. And then I do have the first aid kit and the scent eliminator. I have the Apex View binoculars and the Gen 0 night vision binoculars, and I do have a tent. And I also do have a BOW loadout. Now the BOW loadout has the Arzina 300, the Virant 22, the Zagan Varminter, the Zarza 308, and then I have put the Stenberg takedown recurve bow, comes in the Ambusher DLC, and the reason I have selected this bow over others is because it only weighs 2 kilograms. Most of the other bows weigh 3.5 kilograms, so that is quite a big difference. Now, of course, I have all of the corresponding ammunition, the night vision scope, the Odin, and I do have the Brightside rangefinder bow sight. This sight comes in the high-tech hunting DLC, and this is such an amazing scope for any bow. Basically, it does the range finding, measures the distance between you and your target, so then you can zero accordingly and take the perfect shot. No lures. I do have scent eliminator in here, and then I have the daytime and the Gen 0 binoculars. So that is my bow loadout. Now, of course, if you would like to take a different bow, you can take out the Arzina and the 308 and substitute it with the 7mm Malmer, and then we can choose any bow that we would like. Now, most of the sights do weigh half a kilogram, but the Brightside rangefinder bow sight weighs 2 kilograms, but totally worth it. So by doing that substitution, I can now carry the crossbow. I am under 20 kilograms. I do have the scope, and then I do have a specific shotgun loadout. So for this loadout, we have the Arzina 300, the Virant 22, the Zagan Varminter, the 308, and I do have the Strandberg 10 gauge shotgun, and this is actually my favorite shotgun in the game. Now the Strandberg comes in the high caliber weapon pack, but if you do prefer a different shotgun, most of them weigh 3.5 kilograms. Some of them do weigh 4, but you definitely can substitute the Strandberg for a different shotgun and still get under the 20 kilogram limit. So we have all of the corresponding ammunition, as well as the 10 gauge plastic birdshot, buckshot, and slugs. The birdshot is good for classes 1, the buckshot is good for classes 4 to 7, and the slugs are good for classes 6 to 9, making the Strandberg 10 gauge good for classes 1 and 4 through 9. And then we have all of the scopes from the Scopes and Crosshair DLC, the Night Vision, the Odin, and the Hermes handgun / shotgun scope, no lures, no consumables, and the Apex View binoculars. And that is the full shotgun loadout. Now, whenever I am doing a grind, I do have a specific loadout when I am grinding, and it has very few weapons in it. So when I am grinding bears or moose, I carry 2 different 300s. I carry the Arzina 300 as my main weapon. It has 5 shots, has very little recoil, and weighs exactly the same as the 300 Magnum that only has 4 shots and does have more recoil. But the reason I have them both is so that if I have fleeing animals, I don't take a great shot, and I do use up all 5 of my shots and I need to keep shooting, I don't have to take the time to reload. I can then cycle over to the second 300 and continue shooting. And then of course I do have the corresponding ammo. We used to need the Gen 0 for bears at night, but we don't need it any longer, and that actually leaves almost a full 4 kilograms. So if you would like to carry a secondary weapon, for me it would probably be the Virant, and that is so I can turn animals with the 22 trick. That is beautiful. I'm gonna leave that just like that. So that is my fallow/whitetail grind loadout. Now I'm just basically going through all the different loadouts right here at the beginning. As we go through every map, I will refer to them, but I won't be going over them again. Now I do have other loadouts saved. I'm not going to go through all of them. I have one for a tree stand with a bow. I have a Ganned Hare loadout. I do love to use the Ganned Hare, but you can create whatever loadouts you would like. Set up your perfect loadouts so that they're ready to go when it's time to hunt. Let's start off here in Hirschfelden. Now Hirschfelden and Layton are the 2 non-DLC maps in the game. Now in Hirschfelden, you will find animals that are classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. Now, whenever you have a class 9 species on the map, you are going to need a class 7 to 9 rifle or something that covers class 9. So basically here in Hirschfelden, you can use the main loadout, you can use the non-DLC loadout, the tent loadout, the bow loadout, and you can use the shotgun loadout here in Hirschfelden. Moving on to Layton Lakes. Now, when I am hunting in Layton, I mainly use the main loadout 99% of the time when I am hunting in Layton Lakes. Now, Layton has animals that are class 1, 2, 4, 7, and 8. So you could get rid of the Arzina and the Zarza 308 and substitute it for the Malmer 7mm, and that will give you more space to put different weapons or whatever else you would like into this loadout. Because there are no class 9 species, so you will get integrity with the 308 on moose and bears that are class 8, and those are the biggest species on the map. You can use the bow loadout, you can use the shotgun loadout, and you can use the tent loadout here in Layton Lakes. It all depends on what you're hunting for. Say you're heading to Layton and you want to hunt for turkeys, then I would opt for the shotgun loadout. Moving on to MedVed. And again, when hunting in MedVed, 99% of the time, I am using my main loadout. Unless, of course, I'm specifically going for a shotgun or a bow hunt. If I were focusing on Cape Cali, then I would definitely take the shotgun loadout. But most of the time, that is not my focus. So in MedVed, you can use the main loadout, the tent loadout, the bow, and the shotgun loadout. All of them will work here in MedVed Taiga. Now, as far as the non-DLC loadout goes here in MedVed Taiga, this will definitely work. I would personally prefer to keep the 338 in my inventory for MedVed because bears and moose are pretty hardy animals, and the Rangemaster 338 is going to do the best job on them. Can you get away with hunting them with the 7mm? Absolutely, but I just would prefer to use the 338 myself. Having a weapon like the Sunberg is definitely going to help you stay alive. And again, it all depends on what you're hunting. If you're not going to worry about hunting capercaillie, you could take the Cacciatore out of your loadout and put the Rangemaster 338 back in, and that leaves you with this array of weapons here in MedVed, and that would work pretty great as well. And always making sure that you do have the handgun scope to use on the rhino. Okay, so we are now in Brahanga Savanna, and the main loadout is the loadout that I run with 99% of the time here in Savanna. You really do need a very powerful weapon on Cape Buffalo and on lions, and that would be the Arzina 300. Now again, you could definitely take the 300 and the 308 out and substitute with the 7mm Malmer, and that will give you lots of more space in your inventory. It all very much depends on what you're hunting for, but you definitely do want a defensive weapon when you are hunting in Brahanga. Lions and Cape Buffalo are going to attack you, so the Sunberg Rhino will definitely help you to stay alive, and it is something I highly recommend you carry when you are hunting in Savanna. Now, the bow loadout will also work, as well as the shotgun loadout, and we do have Eurasian Widgeon in Savanna, so carrying a shotgun could be very handy depending on what you're hunting for. But you definitely do want to have a weapon that covers every class of animal on the map. So in Savanna, the species we have are classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 9. Now, if you are going to carry a shotgun, you're not going to have room for the Rhino as a defensive weapon as well as the handgun scope, so you just can't carry everything. Now, that is where the pack mule skill comes in very handy. An extra 3 kilograms worth of space with no additional sound is absolutely awesome. I love it, but the one drawback is when you do have the pack mule skill, and this is it right here, it is under ambusher skills, you cannot have disturbed vegetation at the same time. And I wish we could just have one more point so that we could have both of them. That would be amazing. So what I actually do is I tend to go back and forth, and I do reset my skills every once in a while so that I can use disturbed vegetation for a while, and then I do like to go back to pack mule. And disturbed vegetation you will find under stalker skills. Now, I should have mentioned this earlier, but if you don't have the Virant 22, you definitely can use the Zarza 22. The only real difference is the Virant has 10 shots and the Zarza 22 only has 5, but aside from that, they're awesome. They're both going to do a great job on class 1 animals. Same as the Arzina 300. If you love the Tsurugi 338, you can definitely use that in place of the Arzina 300. Let's see, the Tsurugi weighs 5 kilograms and the Arzina weighs 4, so that is definitely a benefit of the Arzina 300. It is 1 kilogram less than the Tsurugi 338, and what I personally don't like about the Tsurugi 338 or any of the bolt actions is there's a little bit of added recoil when you're trying to line up your second shot, making it harder to line that shot up, and because of that, I don't love the bolt actions. I much prefer to use the Arzina 300 over the Tsurugi 338, but that's just my preference. Now, as far as the non-DLC loadout goes in Savanna, I am going to recommend that you carry the 7mm as well as the Rangemaster 338, because again, we have lions and Cape Buffalo on the map. You do want the strongest weapon possible for those class 9 species. Now, if you're not going to be hunting ducks, I would recommend getting rid of the Cacciatore and substituting it for the Sunberg 454, so you do have a defensive weapon in Savanna. So that would be my recommended non-DLC loadout for Savanna. Make sure you do have the handgun scope, and if you are running the loadout with the Cacciatore, then you're going to want to make sure that you have the Meridian 1 4x20 shotgun scope. Now, this is a non-DLC scope. It does have to be unlocked as a new player, but once you get it unlocked, great scope. So basically, all of these loadouts will work in Savanna. So we are now in Parque Fernando. And in Parque Fernando, 99% of the time, I do run with the main loadout. Now, in Parque, we have animals on the map that are classes 1, 3, 5, 6, and 9. We have water buffalo, so I would recommend that you stick with keeping the 300 and the Sunberg, because you definitely need a defensive weapon when you have water buffalo attacking you in Parque Fernando. But all of these loadouts will work in Parque, and again, with the non-DLC loadout, I would probably get rid of the Cacciatore if you are hunting water buffalo and grab the Rhino. Now, you could actually get rid of the 338 and carry the Cacciatore and the Sunberg Rhino, and then you do have a weapon for water buffalo. Will you have to track them a little bit more? When using the 7mm, yes you will, but you will get integrity, and you do have a defensive weapon, and you do have a weapon to hunt cinnamon teal with. So this might be the best non-DLC loadout for hunting in Parque Fernando. But all of these loadouts will work. So we are now in Cuatro Colinas. Now in Cuatro, we have species on the map that are classes 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we can get rid of the Arzina from the main loadout. Now there are wolves on the map, so it would be very smart to keep the Sunberg Rhino as a defensive weapon. But that leaves you with over 5 kilograms worth of space to put a bow or a shotgun or collars or whatever it is that you would like to hunt with in Cuatro. Now, if you make a change to a loadout and you don't want to save it permanently, just go ahead and change to a different loadout, and when it says unsaved loadout, just click load anyway, and it will not save those changes. So we are now in Silver Ridge Peaks. Now, I would recommend the main loadout. This is what I do use in Silver Ridge Peaks 99% of the time. We do have Plains bison, so you are going to need the 300. Bison are a class 9 species, and they can go aggressive, so carrying the Sunberg would definitely be handy. But in SRP, we have species on the map that are classes 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 9. So all of these loadouts will work: the tent, the main loadout, the bow loadout, and the shotgun loadout. Now this is my recommended non-DLC loadout for Silver Ridge Peaks. Lots of turkeys on this map, so you definitely do want to carry the Cacciatore shotgun. You can use the Sunberg Rhino on anything that is classes 4 to 9, but it will come in handy with Plains bison. And of course the 7mm is good from classes 4 all the way up to 9, so you can use it on Plains bison, as well as muleys, black bears, and mountain lions. Most of the species on this map can be hunted with the 7mm. So again, in Silver Ridge Peaks, you can use the main loadout. This is what I would use most of the time. And then you can use the tent loadout, the bow loadout, and the shotgun loadout. So now we are in Awaroa. Now, Awaroa has species on the map that are classes 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the highest class is class 6. So under the main loadout, you do not need the 300 in Awaroa. In fact, you don't even really need the 454. There are really no big predators on this map, so you could get rid of that, which leaves you a pile of space for you to carry whatever weapons are your favorites. So one really good weapon you could use on this map is the Vasquez Cyclone air rifle, and that comes in weapon pack 3. Now, if you are going to use the air rifle, you are going to need the 45 round nose air rifle pellets. I would prefer those over the hollow points because they do have the most penetration. But the nice thing about the main loadout is it is good for day and night hunting, and there are lots of species that do drink at night, such as feral pigs, so you are going to need the night vision scope and the night vision binoculars, all included in the main loadout. Now, as far as non-DLC loadout for Awaroa, you do not need the 338, so this is the best non-DLC loadout for Awaroa. This is just the best non-DLC loadout, and that gives you 3+ extra kilograms of space to add more into your inventory. And again, the 5 main loadouts that I have shown will all work here in Awaroa. Just with the shotgun loadout, I would take the 300 out because you just don't need it, and then you can choose whatever else you would like for the extra 5.75 kilograms of inventory that you have left in your loadout. So now we are in Rancho del Arroyo. Now, the animal classes you will find in Rancho are classes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There is nothing bigger than a class 5 species on this map. So with the main loadout, I would take the 300 out. You just don't need it. And that gives you over 5 kilograms worth of space to put whatever else you would like in your inventory. But most of the time when I am hunting in Rancho, I would prefer to use the shotgun loadout. Now, you don't need the Arzena. We're going to take that out of it, but you definitely need a shotgun. There are 3 different class 1 species on this map. There are pheasants, which is my absolute favorite thing to hunt on this map, as well as Rio Grande turkeys and antelope jackrabbits. So you definitely need a shotgun. And I like to have the 22 as well. And then we do have the Zagan Varminter and the 308, and you don't need anything bigger than that because, again, there's nothing bigger than a class 5 on this map. So I would recommend the shotgun loadout as your main loadout in Rancho. Now, in Rancho, the tent loadout will work, but it does not give you a shotgun. So I guess you could then use the Virant for class 1s, or you could get rid of the Virant and choose your favorite shotgun instead. But of course, you do have tents, so you can always drop a tent to access your inventory and grab whatever it is you need at the time. Now, as far as the non-DLC loadout for Rancho, get rid of the 338, you do not need it, and this is your non-DLC loadout, giving you an extra 3+ kilograms of extra space. So now we are in Mississippi Acres. Now, the species that you'll find in Mississippi are classes 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7. So you're not going to need the 300 on this map. So this main loadout will do a great job and lots of extra room in your inventory. The bow loadout will work here, as well as the shotgun loadout, but again, I would take the 300 out. giving you 5.7 kilograms of space to put other items in your inventory. The BOW Loadout does not need any changes, nor does the tent loadout. But as far as non-DLC loadout goes for Mississippi, this loadout works. You do not need the 338. So now we are in Revontuli Coast. Now the species in Revontuli are classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. But most of the species on this map are class 1. There are 19 species on this map, and I think 11 are class 1. There's a lot. So for here in Revontuli, the non-DLC loadout that I would recommend is the 7mm, the 338, the 243, and the Cacciatore 12 gauge. You're going to be using the shotgun a lot with all of the class 1 species on the map. Then we have the 243 for classes 2 to 4, the 7mm for classes 4 to 9. You don't have to have the 338, but I would carry it for moose and for brown bears because they are pretty heavy duty animals. But if you don't want to carry it, you definitely don't have to. You can take that out and add whatever else you would like with the extra almost 6 kilograms worth of space. Now in Revontuli, I would run mainly with the shotgun loadout. I would keep the Arzina 300 in it for moose and for brown bears, but this loadout is perfect. We do have the 10 gauge Strandberg and the Virant 22 for all those class 1 species, so this is definitely the loadout that I would use in Revontuli 99% of the time. And so the tent loadout, the BOW loadout, and the main loadout will all work here in Revontuli as well. So we are now in the New England mountains, and the animals in New England are classes 1, 2, 4, 7, and 8. So in New England, the main loadout is the loadout that I would use 99% of the time when hunting on this map. We do have moose, so I like to have the 300. They are very heavy duty animals. There are quite a few class 1 species, but I don't love hunting pheasants and quail on this map. I find the map way too thick, so I do prefer to hunt them on different maps, so I don't worry about bringing a shotgun to this map most of the time. I would use the main loadout as is. This is the non-DLC loadout that I would use for New England. You definitely can get away without using the 338 because you do need the Cacciatore shotgun because there's just nothing else for class 1 species. So if you want to shoot any ducks or pheasants or any class 1s, you definitely are going to need the Cacciatore shotgun. So this is your best non-DLC loadout for here in New England. And you can use the tent loadout, the BOW loadout, and the shotgun loadout as well. Okay, so we are now in Emerald Coast. And the species that you will find in Emerald Coast are classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. This is the only map that has every class of animal in the game on the map. Now, I would probably opt for the shotgun loadout when I am hunting in Emerald Coast 99% of the time. We do have Bantang on the map, which are a class 9 species, so you do need the 300 or the 338. You do need a class 7 to 9 rifle. Then I do like to have the Strandberg shotgun or a shotgun of any type and the 22, and that is for stubble quail. They are super duper tiny, so having a shotgun is very handy. And then you can use the 223 or the Zagan Varminter, and I do have the Zarza 308 or any class 4 to 8 rifle. So this is my favorite loadout when hunting in Emerald Coast. So this would be my recommended non-DLC loadout for Emerald Coast, and all 5 of the loadouts will work here in Emerald Coast with every class of animal on the map. So now we are in Sundarpatan, and the classes of animals you will find on this map are classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 9. Now, as far as non-DLC loadout goes for on the new map, unfortunately with all of these weapons we are above 20 kilograms, so you're either going to have to take the 338 out and work with the 7mm, which will give you integrity all the way up to class 9, or take the Sunberg Rhino out, or take the shotgun out if you're not going to be hunting class 1 species. So you're gonna have to make a choice on this map because not everything will fit. So I probably would take the Rhino out. That way you do have a very powerful weapon for tigers and for water buffalo, and you'll just have to rely on the 338 as a defensive weapon as well. Now the main loadout is what I would use 99% of the time when I am hunting on the new map. You definitely want the Arzina 300 for tigers and water buffalo. Then we have a weapon for every class on the map, and you definitely do want the Sunberg as a defensive weapon. Now I don't feel the need for a shotgun unless I am specifically hunting for woolly hair or for geese. So this loadout will work great, as will the tent loadout, the bow loadout, and the shotgun loadout. So I really hope that helps you to know which weapons to hunt with, no matter which map you are on. If you did enjoy the video, guys, splat that like button. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. And I'm gonna recommend that you watch this video next.